Hi guys, welcome back. So for this week we're going to be tackling our first assembly, and so before we actually get to our assembly we need to create a bush and a pin. So let's just also for this week you need these models or iPods that we created in week 4, the base, the shaft, and the actual wheel. I just want to texture these so that we can see when we actually create the assembly that it's a different color. So okay. The colors will look a bit off, but it's just so that we can see each part. As always, we go to metric standard millimeter IPT, and now we can create our bush and our pin. So for the bush, 2 circles, one of 25 diameter and one of 20. Then we can extrude this in both directions symmetrically, a distance of 25 as well, and then we can chamfer this with a distance of 0,5. So this edge and this edge here. Okay, now that that is done, we can texture this. Let's make this red, maybe. Actually, I should say white. Alright, and let's just save this as bush. Okay, and then we can create another one. So now we can create the pin, and that is a diameter of 5 millimeters and an extrusion of 40 in both directions, and then again a chamfer of 0,5 millimeters. So on this edge and that edge, 0.5. Alright, let me just texture this to all different colors, and now we can actually start the assembly. I just need to save this. Alright, now for an assembly, we go to, as we would for creating an iPart model, except now we're going to do an assembly. So we go to the IAM standard millimeter, right? And then we click create. That is still under the metric folder. Now that we have our IAM, our assembly1, we're gonna place one of the parts, right? We're gonna start off with the base, and we're gonna ground this as our origin point. So if you have this, then just right click and click on place at grounded at origin. So this will automatically ground this part such that it doesn't move if you try and move it. So if you see I try and move this, it won't move, the part won't move, right? So it's basically constrained to the origin already. The next part we need to place are the pin, the shaft, the wheel, the pin, and the bush. Okay, so let me just place this one. So you can place a few at a time. So open each one at a time. So that was the shaft, the pin. Assemblies are generally easy because you just have to remember that you're trying to basically place or trying to put together something that you've now built, or that like these parts, you've built these parts and you're just trying to put everything together. So the exact same way you would in real life assemble something, this is how you would do. You just like apply that knowledge, like I need to constrain certain things so that it doesn't move and things like that. That's the whole thing of an actual assembly. Here's the bush. Okay, so now that we have all our parts, so if you see, I'm able to move these parts freely, but this I can't move because it's constrained at the origin. So the first constraint that we want to do is we want to get this bush placed into this wheel, so into the center of this wheel. So we click on constrain, and if you hover over this part, you'll see that there's an arrow that pops up, right? Basically it shows the center of the hole, right? So if you click on that, and then you show the center of this hole as well in the wheel, and if you click on that, it constrains the bush such that it's inside the center of the wheel. So for example, if we go to the right view, you'll see I'm able to move this. I can't move it up and down, but I'm able to move it left and right through the center of the wheel. So that is basically what constraints do. So I can move this entire thing up and down, but I can only move it through this. Only the bush can move through the wheel, right? So that is the first constraint. The second constraint that we want to do is we don't want this bush to be able to move anywhere. So we constrain this face of the bush to the face of this wheel, right? But we need to click on flush, because if you look at if you have it on mate, then it is the front of that, basically the back of a part constrained to the front of another part. We don't want that. We want the two fronts of the part constrained. So if you click on that, you see that these two parts are now in line with each other. So that would be your second constraint. Assemblies are just basically constraining everything to each other, and that's why I say assemblies are generally easier than the actual modeling of things. They obviously do get a little bit more complicated and things like that, but for the most part this is easier than actually making a model. The next constraint that we want to do is we want to have this shaft inside the wheel itself and the bush. So again, hover such that it can be on any of these cylinders, as long as you see that arrow in that direction, right? And then you do the same thing there, and you can see that it's now constrained to the center of that wheel. So if you apply that and you do the same exact thing, for example, you can see that this entire thing will move up and down, but the shaft will move left and right through the wheel. So we don't want that to be able to move, so we constrain this face, right? This is where we'll have mate, because we want the front of this constrained to the back of the wheel, so like that. So if we apply that, we can see now that this is constrained. This basically, once you constrain it, think of it as super gluing parts together, and now they move as one piece, right? So whether I click on the shaft and I move it, or I click on the wheel and move it, everything will move as one piece, right? Now we need to constrain this entire piece, or this shaft, wheel, and bush, to the actual base. So we can click on this again, where you see that arrow, and you find the center of this base, right? And you click on that. you can see here that this is a bit off. You need this hole that goes through the shaft to be in line with the hole that goes through the base here. So if you click on opposed, it will flip the entire thing, right? And if you look through here, now that the actual hole goes through here, right? If I click on this one, you can see that there's no hole, and if you click on this, the hole goes right through. So we apply that, and then we again do a mate constraint, right? So the wheel to the actual thing of the base. So if I just do that, there we go. So now it's actually constrained, right? Before I actually put in the pin, we can see how now this works, right? This is able to rotate around but not actually come forward or go backwards, right? It just rotates around that actual axis. We will constrain that later such that it doesn't move, but for now let's just constrain the pin to the actual hole here, right? So now that the pin is constrained there, once again, if we look at it, it's able to move left and right but not back and forth and things like that. So we want this obviously to be flush with a cylindrical face. So the way we would do that is you would go to tangent, right? And then you just click on this face and you click on the actual cylindrical face that you want, and then you click on inside. So now that this face of the pin is constrained, is a tangent to this cylindrical face of the base. So that is the entire assembly completed, right? For the most part, we need to now constrain this wheel such that it doesn't move. So we click on origin, right? And we click on the, okay, let's click on wheel as well and open the origin on the wheel. And then if we click on the XZ plane of the origin, and then we click constrain, right? You go to angle and click the first option. It's a directed angle. And then if you click on the XZ plane of the wheel, right, you'll see it will constrain the wheel, the XZ plane of the wheel to the XZ plane of the actual XZ plane. So if we have a look at this, you can see that now this is constrained. However, it is specified to us that this needs to be at an angle of 90 degrees. So you can see that how the wheel shifts in terms of the angle that I put in. So for example, if I was to put 50, you see that the wheel turns and is constrained by that angle, right? So we need to put in 90. So that is how, and we will apply that. And now if I try and move this, you can see there's like a block arrow. It's not allowed to move because of the constraint that we put in. So that is the entire assembly completed. And the next part is we need to actually do the IDW for an assembly. So let's just close all of this up, and we can save this as assembly 1. Week 5 and your student number. Okay. Right. Then now we can go ahead and, as you would normally, you would create your IDW. Go to NUS A3 and create. It's taking a while. And now you can put in your view, right? So let's just put in hidden lines for the first view. There we go. So for now we'll just leave in the hidden lines, and then we'll do a section view as well of this, because if we look at the reference drawing, so we have a section of the center. I will specify how to only get this part sectioned, but once you do the section, it will section everything that is there. So do a section, right, and then just place it. So you can see everything is sectioned, right? The way you take that section out, if you go to your assembly, right, and you click, so you have each part listed here. You only want the wheel section. So you can see if I if I hold on wheel, or if I just hover my cursor on wheel, then you see that it lights up on the drawing. So if I go to the pin, it lights up, the shaft, it will light up. So according to our reference drawing, only the wheel and the bush is sectioned. So everything else, you would right click on it. So for example, the shaft, you'd right click on it, you'd go to section participation, and you'd click none, right? And you can see that it basically takes away the it's not participating in the section or in the section view. So you'd repeat this step for any part that doesn't, and you don't want the section on, right? So there again, you can see there's no sectioning, and the pin as well, right? So there's your completed section view with only the wheel and the bush section, right? What you can do on here is, if you right click and you go to, okay, you don't have to double click, and then you just put hidden views or hidden detail, right? And all the hidden detail will come up. The reason we're putting hidden detail is so that we can do our center lines, for example, a center line that is here and things like that, right? Stuff that we don't we can't just put in a center line there. We need to know where the hole, for example, this hole, if we go to the actual assembly, there's a hole that is located here. This hole over here needs to be shown with a center line, and we can't just put in a center line like that. We need to see those hidden details, right? Such like this. So we can start putting in our hidden details, our center lines. So let's put in this one. There's our center line there. We need to put in the center line. Let me just zoom into this a little bit. So we need to put in a center line for this pin and a center line for the hole that goes right through. Okay, and then obviously the center lines for these circles. The section view will already be there. The center line for this circle, these center lines for basically these circles, but on this view. And yeah, that's basically it. So we'll go to this one. This is a centered pattern, right? So click on the outer circle, and then you just click on the inner circles, and then click on finally on that one, and there you have that basically that what do you call it, center lines for those circles created. Then we need to click on, we need to give the center line of this hole going through. So we just click on those, and that center line pops in, and then repeat the same step for this side. And that is all that we need on this view, right? So if I cancel, I don't know why this didn't save. Okay, there we go. And then if I double click on this view, and if I take my hidden lines away, there's all my views, right? So that is exactly how it is in the reference drawing for this for the front view of the object. So two center lines, and then the center line for the PCD, and then the center line for that is all in there already. Right, this can be shortened a little bit. This is actually not correct. Let's just take this one out actually, and then we'll just put in a center line for the smaller circle. There we go. And we can just extend this like that. Okay, now we need to do the center lines for this. So we'd have a center line here for this circle, for the pin. We'd have the bisecting line, this, right? And then we can just extend this a little bit, going right through. And then we will have the bisecting line as well for that hole over there and this one over here. Okay, so that is all our finer details that we need to put in. The ease one over there, so it would be here and there, and it would be there and there. Right, so there is our details. Right, so now we can all our hidden details we can take out. So double click, just click no hidden lines. Okay, and so there we have our full view now. The next thing we need to do is create a parts list. So just create a parts list. This would be assembly1. Okay, and then just put this over there. Right, so we have 5 parts, and then you would basically as you can see here, you would take a balloon to each part, and then in the actual parts list you would mention what each part is. So part 1 is the base. This is basically the description of the part. This is just engineering drawing CAD 123 week 5 01, right? 01 meaning the part number. And then obviously you just fill in your title block completely. Don't forget to put in your isometric symbol. So if you've forgotten how to put in your isometric symbol, go to drawing resources, sketch symbols, and then ISO first, and you just put it in. And then here's the balloon option. So click on balloon, and then you click on the part, and you can just drag it to where you want it, right? Continue. So that's 1. We want to the pin, to the bush, so to the pin, I will adjust all of that now, right? And then to the bush. Okay, so my parts will be a little bit off because of the what do you call it, the way I created them. It's fine if that's off, as long as you have each part listed and it's not the same as before. So for example, you don't have the base is number 1 and the wheel is number 1. As long as each part is different and numbered differently, it's fine. So we have the bush, we need the wheel, and then we need that. Okay, perfect. So this, I can just extend this out like that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So mine is just numbered a bit differently, which is fine. If yours is numbered differently, don't stress about it. Like I said, as long as each part is listed, is numbered differently, that's fine. And then you can just go ahead and fill in your title block. So if you just go to, where is it, text, and then you can fill in, you actually don't have to do text, there's a way to actually fill this in. So here we go, you double click on parts list, and then you can just fill in the actual part. So part number 1 for me was the base, so the description would be base, and then material specification here would be EDC 123 slash week 5 slash /01, right, as specified in our reference drawing. And then you continue basically for each other part. So my second part would be the shaft, the third part would be the pin, the fourth the wheel, and the final part would be the actual bush. Right, and then you just copy, so this, you can copy this, and then for here you just paste them in, and then just this final part will be changed. So this would be number 2, this would be 3, 4, and this would be 5. And then you just apply that, and everything will pop up here. Right, then okay, and that would be obviously fill in all your details here, and that would be how you create the IDW for your assembly. So once again, assemblies are not difficult. They are easy. They do get more complicated, but I doubt for now this is fairly easy. And then yeah, the IDW. Once again, to select only certain parts that you want sectioned, click on the part that you don't want sectioned. Right, if you go to your assembly, you will see that it will light up. Right click on it and go to section participation and click none, and they will not be sectioned in that specific view. Yeah, I think that's about it. If you have any questions, feel free to message me. Thanks.